What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with a little bit of gaming commentary. And today we're going to be talking about AAA gaming companies and developers, publishers, AAA titles in general. And today's video is basically going to be about how I think AAA companies are doing it wrong when it comes to video games. And I say this in light of a couple videos I've seen and some other YouTubers, some other people around the internet, whether it's on forums or wherever, basically trying, being super supportive of some of these companies like Activision and EA and whatnot, and talking about how we need to be paying more money for video games and how video games are just too cheap, and these, AAA companies are just under the gun and they can't possibly put out a game that would be to our standards for only $60, and they're all rushing to try to get these games done, and that's why the game quality is suffering. I call complete BS on a lot of this stuff. I think, and like I said, I think AAA companies, they have their agenda wrong. They're just doing things wrong when it comes to a lot of these games. And, I searched the internet, and I didn't find any examples anywhere where a developer actually had clearly come out and said, it's cost prohibitive to make AAA titles. So they're obviously making money on these games. That's pretty clear, especially when games like Destiny, Star Wars Battlefront, Call of Duty continually sell day one, making back their budget with a rather large profit, not to mention the DLC. I mean, Destiny itself had, they claim it had a $500 million budget for a 10-year run, but we know it made that back on day one, in addition to expansions, passes, all the DLC that's been sold with the game, all the silver that's being bought through the store on PlayStation and Xbox. So these games are making money hand over fist in most cases. Don't ever let a AAA developer or a publisher, try to talk to you and treat you like you're stupid, that, oh, we're broke, we don't make any money, our guys have to eat. I get so sick of hearing that excuse from a lot of YouTubers who continually try to support a lot of these games and these companies because they don't want their own gravy train to end off the content. And quite honestly, I've heard a couple people also say, well, it's the publisher's making all the money. Well, if that's the case, then it's the developer's fault, because the developer is able to negotiate the contract. And if they do a poor job of that, then it's on them. If Bungie's not making any money with Destiny, it's because they didn't negotiate a very good contract. And considering I've seen that contract, I know that's not the case. They have rather lucrative things in place with their contract with Activision. But these AAA titles are making money hand over fist, but they're still, I think, doing things the wrong way. And that is pretty much seen by a lot of reviews that come out, a lot of gamer opinions on these games. These games just really aren't delivering much content. They're not delivering an enjoyable experience for some of the more mature gamers. I know a lot of people love these very simple games like Destiny, Call of Duty, and whatnot. But at the same time, there's a lot of us who grew up in the golden age of gaming, coming up with the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, even through some of the early PlayStation 2 years, and Xbox 360, obviously. In my personal opinion, gaming has pretty much sucked since about 2013, especially with this whole next-gen thing. I really have yet to find very many very enjoyable next-generation titles that have come out. I still play my 360 a lot more than I do my PlayStation 4, and even when I had the Xbox One, I still played the Xbox 360 more often than the Xbox One. I've been playing a lot of Dragon Age lately because I found that to be a fairly quality game on the PS4. But quite honestly, I haven't found too many games. I find myself still playing Mass Effect, still playing my old Halo games, just going back, playing a little Deus Ex on the Xbox 360. But really, just not a whole lot of great next-generation titles. And a lot of the ones this year have been big disappointments, like, Call of Duty again, Star Wars Battlefront. We're noticing a trend here. Most of these AAA games seem to disappoint over and over and over again. And then you don't have to look very far to see some good games that are coming out, like obviously The Witcher 3 was a really good game that came out very recently. And again, like I said, the AAA companies are just doing it wrong. So if you look at these smaller studios, these smaller companies who are making a lot of these really good games, Game of the Year, even BioWare with Dragon Age and Mass Effect, they're not spending a whole lot of money to make these games. And that's why I think it's complete crap when people say, oh, we need to pay more money for video games. Well, no, maybe the AAA companies just need to stop spending their money in the wrong places if they want to make a bigger profit. I think one of their problems is they are focused way too much on hype marketing. They take out all these ads at the Super Bowl. They take out ads on television, the theater, wherever you see all these ads around for these games. They don't need to do that. Okay, in my opinion, as gamers, if we're interested in a game, we're going to find out about it. We know where to go look. We're on the forums. We're on the internet. We're wherever we have to go to find information about games. We don't need to see it plastered all over television, taking out these ads with McDonald's and Taco Bell and whoever else, and spending all your marketing budget that you could be using to improve the game on all this silly hype-based marketing. And I just say that as myself as a gamer personally, I don't ever look for game ads on television. I know where to go on the internet, look at the forums and things. I look at reviews. I think they're putting their marketing way too far ahead of actually putting out a quality product. And a good example of this as the counter is look at No Man's Sky, which is a game which has done hardly any advertising whatsoever. If anything, they've been almost completely silent about the development of the game, showing gameplay and everything except at some of the major gaming shows. And No Man's Sky has just got this huge following of fans who are just clamoring for information about the game, wanting the game to be out. There were so many people disappointed when No Man's Sky and Hello Games announced it wasn't coming out till June of 2016. So these smaller companies do a really good job of getting the word out to their players and to their customers without having to take out all these huge marketing ads and do all these massive hype-based marketing campaigns, to make the game look good. And then, of course, when the game comes out, it's nothing like what was shown off through all these hype-based trailers. And that's why I'm saying if you're a AAA company, you don't have to spend all this money on marketing. You don't have to spend all this money in the wrong places. Make a good quality product and build up your reputation, and then the gamers will come and will continue to play your games and support your games if you're making a good quality game with lots of good quality content. You don't have to just blitz us with marketing hype, get everybody excited, and they buy the game, and then the game is not that good because you didn't spend the money in the right place. But unfortunately, I think it also has to do a little bit with the way the world is these days, and the target audience for a lot of these games is no longer the more serious, more mature gamer. A lot of it's aimed at the very casual gamers who some play a lot of mobile games. They really just don't care about getting this full experience. They just want to get online after school and play with their friends and spend their parents' money. But I'm not going to get into that social commentary right now. That's for another time. But you could save that. There's AAA companies that they could cut their marketing budgets in half, save that money, put it back into the game, pay their developers better, put out better quality product, make better DLC. That's another thing that's becoming a real joke lately is DLC content. It's just been really terrible. They want you to pay $20 and you don't even get you maybe get 2 or 3 hours of content, whereas before you used to get a lot more for your money, and nowadays it's almost like a joke. By the time you pay all this money on one game, you're spending over $100. You're barely getting any content whatsoever. So again, I just think they're going in the wrong direction. They need to focus more on quality, less of this, let's put out a game and then put out day one DLC hype and season passes and all this other BS, and just focus on making a quality product and give us that quality product. And like I said, talked about The Witcher 3 earlier. That had an $81 million budget for the entire game, and I think any of you who have played that game will agree it's fairly full of content. It's got a ton of stuff to do for $60. They didn't charge you $100 for it and say, oh, buy this add-on DLC and the season pass and all this other nonsense. You got a good experience with the base game, a good enough experience that you will probably go and buy something from CG Projekt Red later on in the future. I'm a huge BioWare fan myself, and like I said, the whole Mass Effect trilogy didn't even cost $100 million. The first game itself was only $2 million to make. Mass Effect 2, and this is an excuse I've also heard, is that these AAA companies, we have to hire all this voice acting talent and all this other stuff. And Destiny, for example, again, I hate to keep using this as a bad example, but it's so easy. Voice acting in Destiny is fairly mediocre for the most part, with the exception of Nathan Fillion, who does a great job as Cade Six. And they spent all that money, or so they claim. Spent all this money on Peter Dinklage and all these other great voice actors. The game is not voice acted very well. And then, like we said, it was $500 million budget. Now let's look at the Mass Effect games, for instance. There is a ton of voice acting work that goes into Mass Effect. Mass Effect 2 on its own had over 90 voice actors, a lot of them really good ones. I mean, if any of you guys have played Mass Effect, you know how really good the voice acting cast is. A lot of major movie stars come in and do it, some B-list actors, but they have amazing amount of voice actors, and they managed to make that game for... Like I said, the whole Mass Effect trilogy didn't even cost $100 million. So someone's doing it wrong in this case. And it's not the smaller companies who have a lot less money to spend, but for some odd reason continue to put out games that have so much more content, so much more quality than these AAA companies are managing to do. And we talk about a game like BioShock only cost $100 million to make, and a lot of people, love that game. It's got a ton of content, ton of replayability, lots of quality stuff in there. These are games that have very rich characters, very well-developed characters, well-developed story, narratives, great combat systems, great gameplay, and they make you want to keep playing them. Fallout 4 was a low-budget game. Shadows of Mordor, most of the Batman Arkham series, even going back as far as some of the Transformers, like Fall of Cybertron, War of Cybertron that High Moon made. Those games were absolutely spectacular. And these are companies that have tiny, tiny, tiny budgets. Like, if they had the budget of a AAA company, I almost just would be completely shocked to see what they would come up with. I mentioned No Man's Sky earlier, if I could talk. That looks like it's going to be a pretty solid game in terms of the amount of content it comes out with. And, they're not talking about it being any more than $60. So I think someone here has an issue. And I think it's the AAA companies. I think it's the AAA developers. And, I think if they hadn't gotten into this situation where they're continuing to try to milk their customers for more money by putting out a crappy product and just spending money on hype marketing, I don't think they'd be in this situation where their games are getting such a negative reaction. And the games aren't getting a negative reaction because the AAA company doesn't have enough time to meet the demands of gamers on a $60 title. The games are getting this negative reaction because the games are just downright not very good. And there's not very good content. There's not very good quality there. They're skimping on everything, like I said, so they can make a bigger profit, spend more money on marketing, get more younger people who don't know as better to come in and buy their games. And, like I said, bottom line, put out a quality product. Don't do DLC right away. Don't do really crappy DLC practices. Don't do microtransactions and all this nonsense. Put out a quality game and then let the game speak for itself. And instead of spending all that money on all this other crap, put out a quality game. That's my biggest message to Bungie and Activision and EA and even DICE with Star Wars Battlefront. My God, that game is just. If that game had not had the Star Wars title on it, it probably would have sold like 5 copies. Like, honestly, it's just such nonsense with the utter lack of content in that game. I've been playing the new Call of Duty a little bit, Black Ops 3. It's borrowed it from a guy at work, and yeah, it's amazing Activision's gotten away with this for so long with Call of Duty. The game itself at its base has really not changed hardly at all since Modern Warfare 2. It's like they just continue to put out another map pack when they make you pay $60 plus all the DLC for. So again, just bottom line, guys, AAA companies, start putting out a better game, put out a better product. Because a lot of us are, quite frankly, searching in other places now. We're going to go to other people like, BioWare and CD Projekt Red to get our really quality games that we don't have to spend a lot of money on, and we get a ton of replay value and a ton of content for our money. So anyways, guys, I'd love to hear your comments and thoughts on this topic. I'm sure a lot of you have a lot to say about it. And I'd love to hear what other games from smaller developers you've played and really enjoyed and gotten, your money's worth out of it. Feel free to comment down below. As always, love to hear you guys' comments. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you again next time.